My philosophy is always been seen as a negative. You have the best defensive record in whatever league you play in, you finish at the top. Now, if they leave one up front, yeah, I've always said the other centre half stays in front. That's a waste of time.
Right, yeah, interesting.
So I always felt when it comes to England, mentally they couldn't quite get over the line.
Was there any conversations there with James?
I went to see him at his house. As soon as I got there, he said that if I'm not going to play it, I don't want you to pick me.
But I do want to talk to you about Zaha. I feel like he's a bit of you, Zaha, isn't he? Obviously, you managed him.
Only till I managed him did I think how good a player he was.
You think we missed a trick, not making
should
sure.
Should have just given him a cap or two.
2026. What team would you put forward? Right, hello everyone. This is cool, isn't it? Yes, that's right. Sam Allardyce is next to me. This is ridiculous. Welcome back to The Ripple Effect. Sam, thank you so much.
James, pleasure to be here.
It's been wonderful to spend a little bit of time in your company. And we're going to dive into how you would set up a team generally in a perfect world. We're then going to dive into World Cup 2018 and if you'd had the chance, how you would have set up England, a ripple effect in itself. And then it could have been your 10-year anniversary as England manager going into 2026. So we're going to have a look at how you would set up England.
If only.
And have a little
my
chat
wishes,
about that
yes,
as well.
if only, yeah.
Indeed. So let's dive into it. So generally, when you're looking to sort of mould a team, create a team, what do you like? How do you want to generally set up?
I was going in the Premier League. It was all about the move from 4-4-2, convincing the centre forward that it's fine for him to play up front on his own because we'll get the right support to him.
Right.
And because at that particular time, they were brought up, particularly in England, on two centre forwards. So the two centre forwards would be there. So I went a long way in prior to me getting the Bolton job into 4-3-3.
Okay.
So I ended up with your City midfield player, one on the left, one on the right, one up front, two wide men.
Okay.
Well, eventually we got into these sometimes not being actually wingers. They could be like the number 2 centre forward to play out here, because it doesn't stop them joining in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming out into that. So where the spaces were created, find the space, run into the space. So if I'm on the ball here, if I'm on the ball there, I would only want to play into these areas. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that area. Because that's where the space is.
Right.
So while I would have centre forward to turn and run, or the wide plan to turn and run, or he could actually run into there and you could play him into space that way.
Right.
So now you're exploiting the back four and you're turning their back four around, running back towards their own goal. What a lot of clubs done with the obsession of playing into feet, would be that you're playing through a tight space. So I have to play through that tight space there.
So what I'll do, I'll give you a pen. And you can draw whatever you want to draw.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would then be more difficult for him to play into that space there, because it could get cut out by the opposition's midfield players. So if we take that off, now if their back four, if we're all the way back here, and their back four doesn't squeeze up, now is our opportunity to play into feet. So if I got the pen, is that it? So into feet, into feet, into feet, into feet, into feet.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to always get this man who generally was spare.
I know that. So
because the opposition was
drop
playing
some names
4-4-2. Ivan Campo,
Gary
Fernando
Speed?
Hierro. No, Gary Speed was one of these here.
The energy.
So it was a good ball playing midfield player who read the game pretty well. He used to do the intercepting and he used to read the game, and so it used to take the pressure off the back four.
And so run for in a perfect world. Often there's a lot of talk about profiles now. What kind of players, different players like. I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was Mel Johnson, who was a scout for QPR for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was talking about certain players that he kind of loved as a scout. He'd see a certain player, they'd look a certain way. Just run through a team in terms of like, what did you What did you like from a right back? What did you like from a left back? What did you like from your centre backs? You've kind of touched on it with your centre midfielder. What did you like profile-wise when it came to those players?
Well, when it came to England, they really would have to defend or be able to defend well, and if you can, be in a position to defend, being able to defend one-on-one. Right, because overall, we all talked about if they leave one up, we leave two back. If they leave two back. But there's occasions where if you're going forward and you want to get back into a game or win a game, you will actually just let the opposition and let it go one-on-one. And then you trying to get and score a goal or trying to get back into a game. In my perfect world, and today it's changed an awful lot, and you have to accept it's changed. So I would accept a right back attacking more now than I've ever done, right? But my full back was obviously to help attack and overlap, and get a few crosses in. But his main job is to stop crosses and defend against the opposition person he's playing against.
Right.
And I think that combination is very difficult to find today. Now, my philosophy is always been seen as a negative. You have the best defensive record in whatever league you play in, you finish at the top.
Yep.
You have the best defensive record in the World Cup, you'll probably finish in the final at least. Now, if they leave one up front, yeah, I've always said the other centre half stays in front.
Oh, you did it that way?
That's a waste of time.
Right, yeah, interesting.
So, because what happens is now, if that popped out to this centre forward here, he holds it up, and then we all have to chase back 30, 40 yards. That man goes in there, and it's marked in front and behind. So if it popped out here, we win it, recycle it. It gets played up. Yeah, as it gets played up, he comes around and recovers.
Talk to me about what's your favourite kind of centre forward? And also wingers. Are you a winger man?
Well, there's two. There's two. One's a goal scorer, first and foremost. I mean, everybody knew I loved Kevin Davies. Kevin wasn't one of those that ran in behind, like I liked with Nicholas.
Yeah.
Or Jermaine Defoe. So I changed my mind.
Yeah.
Based on who I have. So I changed the way we play. People would see it coming up to Kevin to hold up. These players would start going in a wider position. Yeah, Kevin would hold it up. These players would come and support. Yeah, it would get laid off, get wide, get in the box, or he'd come in and he'd have a shot, or he'd have a shot. So these players could all come into play because he held it up.
Yeah.
So they knew Kevin would hold it up. So like everything else, if you know he's going to hold it up, you can set off. If you have to wait to see if he holds it up, in our game, it's too late.
Yeah.
So that's what Kevin was really good at.
Talk to me about Nicholas now. It's so complete.
You know what I mean? So that was a different story. That wasn't playing into his feet. That was always playing down here. He was the double figures goal scorer we were looking for, and boy did he deliver. I always felt when it comes to England, psychology was missing.
Well, that's it. I think that,
you know what I mean. When it came to England, I felt that mentally they couldn't quite get over the line because I looked at the team and thought, there's some talent here.
Well, let's provide some context there, because I think as you step into the job, this is all hot on the heels of the Iceland game. We've gone out, and it was a mentally fragile
performance.
Yeah, and performance, absolutely. You know, and I think chatting to you today, the thing that I found really interesting is your soft skills and your understanding that how important that is. And it sounds like you're saying there that would have been one of the things you would have really enjoyed with England, is the ability to kind of to get them out of the mire that they were in mentally, and almost get them to stop thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly you got you don't quite know that until you get into it and you speak to other people. You've got the fear of not the same protection as you get at the club. You've got to marry into a unit with little or no time.
Yeah,
to practice.
So to get that chemistry is difficult.
But you've got a lot of technology that we had. Instead of sitting in the analysis room and going through time, it's gonna come to you via technology now.
Right.
So that meant that our time together would, I think, probably be a little more enjoyable, hopefully.
Yeah. Or you're taking out unnecessary space.
Unnecessary space. So and then finding out what their problems were previously, which was critical to the mental state of the players.
Yeah, allowing that connection.
Yeah.
Let's. So this is a whole host of players, and what I'll do is I'll just highlight the team that Gareth Southgate kind of went with, and then we'll kind of lose that, and then let's work our way through what your defence would have been, your midfield would have been, and your front line would have been. So in terms of the team that played in 2018, you had Pickford as your goalkeeper. It was actually Ashley Young playing as a left-sided wing-back. You had Maguire, Stones, and actually, we're going to dip into the right-backs here because Walker came and played.
This is Gareth.
This is Gareth. This is what Gareth ended up doing. Trippier played as the right wing-back. You then had Henderson, kind of as the sort of single pivot here. Just move drink water out of the way. Oh, could get messy now. Here we go. Oh, all right. There you go. And then it was one where you had actually Dele Alli playing over on this sort of side, and he would really work this left channel quite a lot because Ashley Young wasn't really getting up there. And on the other side, there was Jesse Lingard, was playing on this right side, doing kind of a similar thing because the wing-backs, as we said, weren't really ones that are going to bomb on, and you weren't really playing wingers. And then, interestingly, Sterling, who scored 17 goals as a left winger, actually kind of played as a centre-forward alongside Harry Kane. Okay, so just for context for kind of everyone, that's what got England to a semi-final. So let me take them all off, and then let's go through your defence.
I mean, you have to say rightly so. I mean, on the basis of what he was doing. Like, I mean, you know, back three for me. Well, it did work.
Would you have played a back three?
No, I'd have played a back four because I didn't know anybody that was playing with a back three. I can't remember. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember anybody that was playing with a back three regularly and at the club, at their own club.
Yeah, I think it was.
So I would have always favoured the fact that nobody wants to give up midfield, and most people played with a three midfield, whether it's 2 and 1 or whether it's 1 and 2, whatever it might be, didn't particularly matter. Depending on who you were playing against, it might be 2 and 1 if you're playing against one of a team as equally as good as you. It might be 1 and 2 in front if you felt that they were weaker than you.
But with England, you know, the mindset that you were kind of stepping into, which is obviously a very different job where England should be dominating most games that they would have played.
Yeah.
What would you have gone with then? You would have gone with a back four because you think you should be dominating most games?
Back four, I think that mine would have been Maguire and Stones.
Okay.
I think I'd have had Trippier in at left back at the time. It is a long time ago. And Walker at right back.
So you would have Walker. So yes, I did want to ask you about that. So the left back situation was tricky.
It was tricky, but I mean, he's played left back. He played left back, right back.
So you wanted Trippier over here?
Yeah, because I'm not so sure at that particular time Shaw wasn't that fit. Danny Rose
was in the squad in 2018, but he was injured very regularly.
Well, he also got injured playing for me in my first game. So I don't know how fit he was. We're coming round to that at the end of that.
And Ashley Young, did you agree with that idea of?
That's all right. Yeah, you're not. I mean, but he's a left. If it was in the back, if it's in the three, he's a left or right winger. I mean, he plays full back now in his latter years. But you know, Trippier for me had been one of the best fullbacks, and of course.
So Alexander-Arnold was in the. He was in the squad. He was
really young.
As the years would have progressed, there's so many different right backs that are available there.
Well, there's James, and James would have been a right back for a long time after, if Carl Walker hadn't been as dominant as he is. But he seems to have disappeared.
He's struggling with injuries, isn't he, time and again?
You know what I mean? So he was for me a monster right back. But Trent Alexander, I think, is still performing to the highest level. But
when you were talking about earlier, kind of guys that aren't good enough defensively or aren't good enough, they've got one or the other. Walker's kind of one of those two, but you would have gone with Walker.
He's got both.
You think Walker's got enough going forward?
He's not as much as him, but he's got some. He's got some qualities without a doubt.
So you think over this period, over these last few years, who do you think would have played more out of these two for you? Walker. You would stay with Walker. Okay. So there's your back four. Midfield.
Trippier then could play if Walker. If Shaw comes back, Danny Rose comes back. We've got Gary Cahill.
Yep.
Probably a little unfortunate to be left out.
Yep, correct. He was, he was in the squad. One of the older guys as well.
Guys, you know,
I guess you wanted that balance as well between a few older guys.
Midfield on what was there. You know, at the time there were Henderson was always the number one for me.
Yeah, I thought it was.
You know what I mean?
It's funny when you look back. Yeah. It was. You could understand the problem on the left-hand side, and so he had to make a decision. But I just wondered if, you're saying you've got 4, so you've kind of got an extra player now to kind of play with a little bit.
Yeah, Dele Alli on the left, I'd have gone for.
So what's your midfield three?
I'd have gone. Where's Dele Alli?
Dele Alli is here.
Yeah.
Right. So Dyer is going to come out. You would have Lingard.
Yeah.
So that's what Gareth had.
Yeah.
So no loyalty there for Lallana whatsoever.
He'd have been in the squad.
Been in the squad, not in the starting 11. Fair enough.
It's been a long time from my first game to when the World Cup came up. So,
very true. And
of course, you see, one even more importantly, it would have been a huge decision to leave Wayne out. But at that time, Wayne was super duper England captain, super duper player. But he'd lost his position at Man United at that particular time.
Because you made him captain, didn't you? Because
you
made him captain.
And he is a proper captain, by the way.
Right.
But I just felt by then, you know, not playing for Manchester United and not being on top of his form because he's not playing would have been with the players that were available, and I don't think he'd have wanted to come along as a sub. Yeah.
Jack Wilshere, I think the injuries were kind of hitting by that point.
Too many injuries.
So that was making life difficult.
Dele Alli was, I thought, at that time was on top 4. James Milner had retired.
Well, yeah, so was there any conversations there with James Milner?
I went to see him at his house. As soon as I got there, and he said that if I'm not going to play, I don't want you to pick me.
Was that before the first game or after the
Before.
First game? Right.
As soon as I got the job.
Okay.
Because I had James at Leeds United, at Newcastle United, like me, and he's one of the most respected players I have most respect for him, like me. So that conversation was understandable between me and him, like I mean. I think Rashford was on top form, on good form. Harry Kane scored goals as always. Sterling was on top form for Man City. So Lingard was riding high. Dele Alli, a little concerned about them too. You know, maybe shooting off together instead of being disciplined enough to know when to go and when not to go. You know what I mean?
We're talking on the pitch. We're talking on the pitch.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Well, both of them want disciplined off the pitch by the sound of it. But you know, who knows? That don't particularly bother me. Is how they're performing at that particular time.
Okay. And the last 3 I wanted to talk about was, so Antonio was in your squad at the first ever squad. Yeah. He ends up playing for Jamaica. But you picked him in your first squad.
I did, yeah. At the time we were all talking about with Dan and the backroom staff and Sammy and everybody else who was in form. You know, who was really playing well, like you mean, and he was breaking and a lot of.
He was horrible in that right wing.
Awesome performances for West Ham.
Yeah. Walcott was the one that played in your first game.
Played in the first game as well.
An out-and-out winger. We were wondering if you might have had a soft spot for him. I do want to talk to you about Zaha, just because I don't know if this is... So basically like a year later, 6 months later, he then decided not to play for England anymore. I feel like he's a bit of you, Zaha, isn't he? Obviously, you managed him.
Only till I managed him did I think how good a player he was.
Right, that's when you realised.
And I realised. So I did him a disservice before I got there, because when I actually got there and saw what he could and what he can do and what he couldn't do, was I mean, he was part of the reason Crystal Palace stayed up that.
I think we missed the trick, not making sure.
Should have just given him a cap or two, but you know, he could be petulant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know, one of the most unprotected players in the Premier League.
Zaha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to get 3 fouls against him before the referee had booked the fullback.
It was weird.
It was a standout.
Yeah.
Blatant responsibility that the referees seem to ignore. Players are fouled because they're frightened of them. They double up and the two's up on them all the time.
Yeah.
And they foul them because they can't cope with them. They can't cope with their ability. And Wilf was the same. He used to get foul after foul. And that's his frustration ended up coming out with a referee because the referee wouldn't really book the player soon enough to stop him.
And again, he's getting his ankles
fouling him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So no, you got to calm down, Wilf. Like, you mean? And he'd go, well, he's not. You know, everybody else is getting booked, and nobody's not. You know, so it was, but he was, you know, it was sometimes difficult to handle, but he was the number one in terms of if Palace wanted to stay in the Premier League, he was the number one person to keep fit for as long as possible. Right,
let's get to the present day, or actually the future, 2026. What team would you put forward? We're going to work our way through.
Well, work your way through. Pickford for me is still going to be.
You managed him, haven't you?
Number one, yeah. I managed him when he was at Sunderland, when he was just a kid, and then at Everton, and never lets England down. Hall seems to have taken like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps forward
this year. Yeah,
seems to have come out of his shell and started to express the ability he's got, and that's nice to see with a natural left footer in that position. This man has got so much pace.
You were so excited when you saw his name. Why is he so special?
Because he's got what Maguire and Stones never had, or Cahill, and that is it's a bit like Van Dijk. If he does slip up, he's quick enough to recover and get himself out of trouble, and he's quick enough to cover around other players and get them out of trouble as well. And I think that if we're attacking and going attacking, then that is crucial. There's a huge amount of experience and only a little bit of youth in there, because they'll all be mostly prime of the career.
Yeah.
You know, I think there might only be Stonesy and Pickford about 30, will they?
Yeah, if you think, I guess if we go from 2018 through, you know, Pickford and Stones are two. So you put Stones in your centre-back pairing there with Gay. I think Brantford, you feel like, is an exciting one, but maybe it's one where if you've got John Stones and he's fit and he's got the experience that he's got, feels a bit odd not to put him in there. So I like that as a pairing, and they didn't let us down. Right back, talk to me about Trent.
Well, I think that James, I would have hoped will make a comeback at Chelsea, because, you know, I think that he's as big a challenge as Trent. I think Trent's been rather unfortunate about the criticism he's had about his defending, but it has at times not been the best. But then again, you've got to weigh up how many creative opportunities he gives going forward, and how many balls he plays, and how many times he creates chances for Liverpool and England to score. You know, and this rotation here is interesting for me, because we talk about, and people will always talk about, the fact that he's preferably likes it better in here and he likes it better in here, but there's nothing wrong with playing them together and rotating. You know, so they, not that they'll just do it all the time, because we might want him in here, we might want him going in there and then coming down there, you know what I mean? But I do think that the balance left footer, you know, could be, 3 left footers in one team is quite unusual these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. You've got Declan Rice kind of sitting there, which he has done. Sometimes people kind of feel like he can't play in that position. I think that's ridiculous, personally.
Well, you know, he started as centre half, don't you?
Yeah, I know he played there.
Half at West Ham.
Yeah.
And then it was only like Moisey, I think, that moved him into midfield, that he became a revelation in there for me.
Yeah, and I think he's a really smart player. So I think he's going to get better and better as time goes on. And as a midfield 3, that feels really strong. Bellingham is one where, is he a Kevin Nolan? Is he going to get involved here? He's got a little bit of opportunity there.
He gets the goals as well, doesn't he? Like, you mean? And I think that I want them to share defending responsibility. When we haven't got the ball, I want them both back in here.
Yeah.
Depending on where our back 4 is.
So,
so there's always got to be that space can't be no more than wherever it is on the pitch, 25 metres, 30 metres.
That's it. You're doing it nice and tight.
You got to keep all that nice and tight. Wherever you want to start it. If it's up here, then the back 4's on the halfway line. If it's here, it's in the middle, and if it's there, if it's farther back, then they all go back.
How do you feel about pressing?
This team could press. I don't think you can press with Harry Kane.
Yep.
I don't think it's his.
So you're not against it? It's just sort of, it's based on energy and
profiles.
profiles.
I'm not against it. No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not against it. It expends a huge amount of energy sometimes, and the World Cup is a long way to go at the end of a very, very hard season. So conserving your energy sometimes is very important. So a different tactic could be good for the team not to be expending that much energy.
Okay. And the final spot here, I think Saka. Look, everyone knows he's amazing.
It's proven though, isn't he now?
Oh, totally, absolutely.
Proven, yeah.
And for England's been phenomenal.
I mean, you've got Gordon. He might develop. He's going well, isn't he? Like, I mean, you've still got Grealish. Jack's not going to be that old when it comes around. But who knows? Who else is going to appear? I admire Watkins. I think I really admire the fact that he's been taught how to become a goal scorer.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because he would play on the left a lot of times at Brentford, then became a centre forward, and he would drop deep a lot.
And also, I'm impressed with, again, who's been taught how to be a goal scorer, Solanke.
Yeah.
Because neither of them were that prolific, a bit like Kevin Davis before, and now they've become
top strikers.
Doing it at Tottenham now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Never mind Bournemouth, like you mean. So
he works so hard for them.
So that's very, very important if you're going to be replacing. I mean.
So I was going to say, by 2020,
it's going to be difficult.
Well, that's it. By 2026, you're saying that Watkins will be the main man then?
I think so. I don't think it'll be Harry.
Sam, what a joy! Amazing to
pleasure,
spend a bit of time with you. Loved it. Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for listening and watching to The Ripple Effect. Big thank you to Sam once again. Make sure you follow and make sure you check out the podcast that we did together. No tippy tappy.
No tippy tappy football.
Go check it out.
Get on it.